Hello, everyone, and welcome to our viewers and our esteemed guests to another episode of Spoken and Heard. I'm Haley Mitchell Haugen. I'm the founding editor of the quarterly poetry journal Sheila-Na-Gig Online, now in our 10th year of publication, and the small press Sheila-Na-Gig editions with more than 70 individual poetry collections and chapbooks published since 2017. These projects fall under the umbrella of our 501c3 nonprofit arts organization, Sheila-Na-Gig Inc., where I strive to uplift new and established poets everywhere. I hope you'll check us out at sheila-na-gigblog.com, where I encourage you to read our journal and to, of course, support our authors by buying their books. It's my honor to offer tonight's online platform for Kari Gunter-Seymour's Spoken and Heard. Many of you already know Kari Gunter-Seymour, but in case you don't, I'll let you know that she is our most recent former poet laureate of Ohio and the author of 3 award-winning poetry collections, including her latest book, Dirt Songs from Eastover Press in 2024, and A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions, and winner of the Ohio Poet of the Year Award in 2020. Kari is the executive director of the Women of Appalachia Project and editor of its anthology series, Women Speak. Her work has been featured in American Book Review, Poem a Day, World Literature Today, the New York Times, and many other places. So happy to welcome Kari Gunter-Seymour. Hi, Kari.
Hi, Haley. Hey, thank you so much. I am so grateful to you and the wonderful Sheila-Na-Gig who will be broadcasting our events this spring and fall. And as always, a huge thank you goes out to the Ohio Arts Council for sponsoring the 2026 season of Spoken and Heard. I, of course, want to welcome our audience, those who are here with us this evening and those who'll stream us later on social media and YouTube. And tonight, I am so pleased to welcome singer-songwriter Andy Milliken, poet Dr. Taylor Byas, and George Ella Lyon, who writes in many genres. We'll do a short Q&A after the readings for those of you with us tonight, so please jot down your questions and be ready to enter them in the chat at the end of the readings. So let's begin. I am so excited this season because we have a musician in residence. Andy Milliken, also known as Ange McGillicuddy, explains that he is a poor mud farmer living in a shack he built on the banks of the mighty Raccoon, which is the longest creek in the world, with his dog, Oscar, his guitar, and the banjo his grandpa gave him. He writes songs about real life in Appalachian Americana in a sad boy, alt country style. And I will tell you, I have not yet heard one of Andy's original songs that has not laid me out cold. I'm so excited for all of you to hear him tonight, and he will be opening every episode moving forward this season as our musician in residence. Take it away, Andy.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, everybody. Um, if you want to, my name's Andy Milliken, but if you want to find me on the social media at all, it's Ange McGillicuddy. That's Ange, like Barney used to call Andy on Mayberry, and McGillicuddy was Lucy's maiden name on I Love Lucy. The song I'm going to do tonight is, for me, it's a little bit more serious. It's not about my ex-girlfriend, so um, it almost sounds political, but it's really not. It's more of a caveman kind of a song, like all the other men in the village had to go to war, and I got left behind, kind of a deal. Uh, Most of the time, if I'm writing a song and the melody seems real familiar, I'll feel like I must have ripped it off. But then if I keep going and I can't place whatever song I think I ripped it off of, I'll start feeling like maybe this is a real song. This one I got almost all the way finished with, and I realized it was the song Manic Monday. But not the part where she says Manic Monday, so I think I can get away with it. Uh, this song's about my cousin Trent. Oh, and I will say one more thing. This came out a little bit more Toby Keithier than most of my other songs are. But I only write a couple a year, and I don't feel like I get a lot of say-so in how they turn out. I always felt like I should have gone to Afghanistan, but I hung around here and picked the guitar instead. I'm not proud, sometimes I'm even ashamed. My cousin Trent, he was a U.S. Marine. When we were kids, we used to run around in the woods in green wool shirts from the army surplus. Stopped by the spring to fill our canteen. My cousin Trent, he was a U.S. Marine. Out of the clear blue sky, when I was in the 10th grade, these religious men hijacked 3 or 4 planes. With all the flag waving hate, I didn't know what to believe. My cousin Trent, he was a U.S. Marine. Was it all for nothing? Well, I don't think so. But then again, what do I know? I know for damn well sure he's a better man than me. My cousin Trent, he was a U.S. Marine. I always felt like I should have gone to Afghanistan, but I hung around here and picked the guitar instead. Everybody
Wow,
heard?
Andy, thank you so much. That feels so timely, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And it must have been difficult for you to sing it, but we certainly needed to hear it. So thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, I play in the bar just about every weekend, and internet stuff always makes me like 10 times more nervous for some reason. I don't know why.
Well,
But
just
thanks for
relax.
having me.
You are loved here. Thank you so much, Andy. Okay, we're going to move on now. Although we could listen to Andy sing all night, I know. So next up, Dr. Taylor Byas, PhD, is a Black Chicago native, currently living in Cincinnati, Ohio, where she is a features editor for The Rumpus, an editorial advisor for Jack Leg Press, a member of the Beloit Poetry Journal editorial board, and a poetry editor at large for Texas Review Press. But wait, there's more. Her debut full-length I Done Clicked My Heels 3 Times from Soft Skull Press won the 2023 Maya Angelou Book Award, the 2023 Chicago Review of Books Award in Poetry, and the 2024 Ohio Anna Book Award in Poetry. Her second full-length, Resting Bitch Face, which came out in 2025, is a September pick for Roxane Gay's Audacious Book Club. She's also a co-editor of the Southern Poetry Anthology, Volume 10, Alabama, from Texas Review Press, and Poemhood, Our Black Revival, which is a YA anthology from HarperCollins. She is represented by Noah Gray Rosenwig at Triangle House Literary, and you can find Resting Bitch Face at softskull.com. I first met Taylor as she was graduating from her PhD program at the University of Cincinnati. The minute I heard her read, I knew she was magic. She is one of the kindest people I know, and I am so excited to have her with us this evening. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's so good to see you again. It's so good to be here this evening. Okay, I'm going to read some poems from my latest collection, Resting Bitch Face, which is a collection about, what it means to kind of be a woman, a Black woman in particular, in this world, and to kind of navigate a world where there are very few places where you are truly safe. And so I'll begin with a longer piece, which is titled Essay on Shuddering. Nothing stills beneath your gaze unless you are a man with power. My father's looking made the rain of a storm rewind itself into the clouds, made it think twice of its havoc. My ex-boyfriend's camera, a handheld Medusa, how I hardened beneath it, and how he hardened with pleasure in response to my fear, the both of us shuddering ourselves against the other. All little Black girls have been told to change for male company, have been aged with the knowledge of a man's wanting. What is comfort with a man mixed in? What were our bodies but a clean sheet of paper for others to inscribe their stories? In our own homes, we were inappropriate. When our father's friends came over, girl, go put some clothes on. In the command, a father's knowledge that a man will always look. Those old Easters, do you remember? We shined with hair grease, all us girls primped and pressed, dressed in lacy socks and skirts with crinolines to hold their shape. All of us, a smattering of overturned wine flutes in the pews. In church, our cleanliness was always mistaken for goodness, some currency in how docile we were when touched, pinched, inspected. He who holds the camera has the say. The photographer says smile and I obey. He motions how he wants me to shift my body and my body follows. Under the bright studio lights of the photo shoot, I begin to sweat, my body's only rebellion. My first trip to the museum was a lesson in etiquette disguised. Do not touch, keep your voice down. My mother took me to admire the art, but the art was too busy watching me. Rooms of pale faces, gold plaques in which I saw my reflection scarred by the names of white men. The women in the paintings did not smile. I gathered the courage to step up to girl with the pearl earring as close as the black tape would let me. This imaginary woman stuck gazing over her shoulder, forced to meet everyone she finds waiting. Once on a date in the Birmingham Museum of Art, my then boyfriend leaned in to squint at the details of a woman's breast, said loudly, "Women were built so different back then." A few paintings over, I gazed at a naked man. I found no shame in his face. My boyfriend sidled up next to me. Looking at all this shit reminds me that there are two types of people in this world, the watchers and the watched. Silent air quotes. Between us, his question fell unsaid. Which one are you? I've never gotten used to living alone. I talk myself through jump scares and scary movies, make shudders of my fingers. Once at night, I walked past the television and was startled by the motion captured in the glass. I didn't think I could cast a shadow with so little light, and yet there I was, a shapeless ghost blacker than the black of the sleeping screen. Shit, it's just me, I said, as if that soothed the fear, as if I could not haunt myself. When I look at myself now, I'm really just straining to see who is on the other side of the glass. I take a selfie, and the girl in the picture is not me. Some days, I dance in the mirror and cannot catch her imitations. She's gotten too damn good at copying my moves. So you will start to hear some common themes, camera looking, being watched, that sort of thing. And you'll also hear a lot about art in this book. And so there's a sort of like critical series that runs through the book called the Sculpture Studies. And I will read the first one. Sculpture Study number 1, Brooklyn, New York. A woman's real first lesson about her body is nothing to write home about. The second lesson, one of colonization. It happens in a big city, the sidewalks gone half dust and the woman believing, for once, there is something for her to claim. This complex ecosystem of space, improvised measurements to guess by, the swing of a tote bag, a soft circumference of hair. The woman is eyeing her way to the J train when a man, made faceless by the crowd, grabs her ass. There are two options: be crazy or be quiet while the incident reworks the DNA. There is one option, because the silence sires some sort of madness later. Right there on the corner, she stops, marbles against the summer heat, eases her hair from its rubber band to let something free. The faceless man hurts her to still life, an inanimate thing bedazzled in all the city's wet offerings, the day's earlier drizzle still drying, the humid air relentless with stickiness. What are we allowed to really be when we hurt in public, human or statue? As if she thinks this into existence, the evening sun glosses her brown skin in a coat of bronze, and she grows into the ground. No one can tell the difference as they shuffle around her, give extra space. Look how gentle they are when there is no harm to be done. Um, let's see. I will, yeah, let's read this one. A lot of us, or some of us, were at AWP this last weekend, and AWP is sort of known for being chaotic, but also like the AWP travel, I always find myself kind of people watching in the airport because it's always so hectic and chaotic. And so this is an airport poem because I found myself, I think, even more alert as I was writing this book and thinking about what it means to watch and be watched. So an airport poem on the hind legs of AWP. Lessons in Grief, Piedmont Triad International Airport, GSO, 5:06 a.m. I hurt through the terminals. I blow out my eardrums with bass to make parentheses of pain around my heartache. This early in the morning, the sky is a demi-blue, dark enough to muzzle anything I'd smile at. At the gate, an apocalypse of exhaustion. When boarding begins, I stare at a black wire sculpture of a man sitting on the edge of a chair, his chin in his hand as he leans forward. A child unscrews her hand from her mother's fist to run toward it, and I've written the end of this scene in my mind already, where the child's curiosity guides her hand toward what she shouldn't touch. She reaches the figure and stops, backs away, looks back at her mother for help. Up close, the wire cold, the man uninviting, the little girl is lucky, like some children who learned early on about what could hurt them and how to avoid it. She begins to cry, and I've witnessed her first heartbreak, what it's like to get up close to a man and see him clearly when it's too late. The girl's mother comes over, pulls her firmly away by the arm, and is there a better way to be saved? The sculpture remains wrapped with attention, waiting for a conversation. I know the coldness of men, have snaked my body around the wiry metal of the heartless. And still I find myself thinking of the statue, how lonely a life. My friends say I am too empathetic, and this is why I struggle to walk away from who hurts me. You see humanity where there is none, one text. How lonely a life, I mouth to myself. Okay. I'm going to read the title poem, the poem that the book is actually named after. And how this poem came to be is during the pandemic. I realized that men stopped telling me to smile because they couldn't see the entirety of my face. Half of my face was covered, and it was a very interesting thing to notice, that that was kind of what it took for for people to stop policing my face. And so that is kind of what gave birth to this poem. And then this poem ultimately gave birth to the name of the book. So it has an epigraph from the collection Spill by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. And that epigraph reads, "How did you get here? What trumped up troop of slave ship sloop put you here on my doorstep in your nastiness? Resting bitch face. Something about the set of my face says slave, cracks sharp in its stank and slits you uncomfortable. And what do you make of me again? In that gas station parking lot, in the grocery aisle in its fluorescence, when you tell me to smile for you. You too pretty to be frowning, makes a fugitive of me, shutters me closed for your business. You even smooth talk yourself into a lie. Say smile and mean relax, mean open, mean peel back, mean lights, camera, action, put on a show for me. The last time I smiled for a man, my teeth sparked white in the dark of his bedroom like police lights in a rearview mirror. What could I afford with that currency besides his violence? Smiling has never bought me tenderness, never tendered me a love that let my face be bitch. And ain't that what you gonna call me anyways? Whether I thaw out for you or not, don't this always end the same? The bright you coax from my mouth, snuffed out as soon as I show it to you. Just a fun poem. I love that poem. Okay, I think I'm going to do two more. The last one I'll end on is it's a fun poem. So it's a little longer, but she's a lot of fun. I like ending on that poem. But before that one, I want to read the poem that I wrote for my mom. While we were editing this book, we were going back and forth about whether this should be included because I think it at some point felt like it didn't belong in the book, but I'm ultimately glad that I did include it because it does belong. And when talking about, very few places of safety in this world as a Black woman, my mom is one of those safe places. And she's one of the best things that could ever have happened to me and to this universe. And so, a poem for my mother, love poem attempt, one out of unknown. On FaceTime calls, my mother taps the side of her head when the truth occurs to her, and it is always arriving again when we speak. Last week, I called my mother from bed, and she caught the bed restraints on my headboard in the frame. We laughed and released our different truths. She called me a freaky girl, while I admitted I had never used them. Sometimes we collide like that, our revelations canceling each other out. Tonight, I invite my mother to cry with me. Neither of our faces on camera, just the intimacy of us visiting our shared, imprisoned sadness. Our loneliness ornate and parading as other things like hunger or our constant calls to the other. Our gospels bustle through the night. My mother says, I just want companionship, but I don't trust anyone after the divorce. I think of the man I love, how he loves me too, but loves me less, and send a fact back. Sometimes love doesn't look the way I want it to, but it's still the love I need. My mother marvels at our differences, her finger drumming the soft bowl of her temple, her confusion becoming legible, askable. But aren't you wasting your time loving a man who hasn't chosen you? And again, we crash about definitions of love, hers singular in shape and size, mine fluid and slippery. But then she's laughing again, remembering You're right-brained and I'm left-brained. That's why we love so differently. What she means is that she loves in black and white and I love in the gray area. That she is all or nothing and I have learned to enjoy a good thing while it lasts. Each of us surviving the same world antithetically. We do what we have to do, I say, wrapping my arms around myself. In Chicago, in my mother's bedroom, the truth arrives in the same gesture, unknowingly, my touch becoming her touch, and becoming mine again as she hugs me in her head. Between us, a silent certainty chugging through static. We are always holding each other in the dark. Okay. And then my last poem I'll read. I think in the process of writing this book, I also started to think about technology and the weird ways that technology allows people to continue to like haunt us after they've left our lives. And so we have things like voicemails and voice notes and all sorts of things. And I found myself confronted with people who were no longer in my lives, and yet there they were. So there was some part of them in my phone or whatever. And so this is a poem in which I try to have the last word. And again, thank you all so much for being here. 1. Men have crueled love out of my language. Yes, I still have the voicemails. Now I listen more to their backgrounds, the soundtrack of rain grousing against a car window, a friendly waitress ambiguous in her offerings. Can I get you anything else? A man's ego is so large he breaks my heart while talking to himself, chases his voice the way a dog hunts his own tail. Through the tunnel of static, one barely suppresses the glee of cutting a thing deep enough, the blood gets greedy for the knife. Another laughs, falls in love with himself. I just need to focus on me, you know. He pulls down his visor in the car, parked after a work shift before a date. He watches himself triple in the eyes of the mirror, feels like some kind of God. 2. How inconsequential I was, dialed in these transitory moments. On accident from a jean pocket twice, something divine in that. How they called with news as heavy as death, their relief leaking through like water damage. I heard it pooling, darkening into a shapeless puddle on a bathroom ceiling. In one ear, a man broke up with me without me. In the other, I mistook the sound of a leaky faucet as lost love drizzling into an empty tub. 3. Hi, this is Taylor. I'm sorry I can't answer the phone right now. Hi, you've reached Taylor. And this was truer than I knew. The past version of me apologizes for being out of reach because she hasn't learned how sound trebles into sensation. A man's rough hands. I'm currently unavailable, but if you leave your name and number, I'll remember. It was about power, about a voice lassoing my wrist through the phone just as I turned to leave, saying, don't go, having already left. 4. Even my iPhone tries to save me. The voicemail transcript censoring their last words. Look, I know you wanted to talk in person, but I feel like this is blank. Best, better, easier, it, all I can afford. I play Mad Libs with the messages before I listen. I think we've just been blank apart. Drifting, falling, fucking. I'll be over to pick up the last of my blank tomorrow. Close, spit. Just let me know when you'll be blank. Gone, at work, over it. 5. Hi, this is Taylor. I'm sorry I can't answer the phone right now, but if you leave your name and number, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Hi, I'm sorry I can't right now. Hi, I can't leave you. Hi, this is sorry. Hi, this is Taylor. If you leave, I'll get back to you. Hi, I'm sorry I can't answer your name. Hi, Taylor. I'm sorry, but hi, Taylor. Leave as soon as possible. Hi, this is Taylor. But if you leave, aisle. Thank you. And that is it. Thank you all so much.
Oh, Lordy. Oh my gosh. I'm giving you all the hearts. I see a whole bunch of others coming up as well. Taylor, thank you so much for just being so incredibly vulnerable and authentic with all of us. We don't get a lot of that sometimes, and when we do, it's just so amazingly special. So thank you so very much. I want to remind everybody, Resting Bitch Face is from softskull.com. You can order your copy there, or if you go to my website, Kari Gunter-Seymour Poet, and click on Spoken and Heard, her book is there as well. You can click on that and buy it there. And don't forget, y'all can use the chat. I've been chatting away in there, and I'm wondering where y'all are. So feel free to do that. And if you want to leave Taylor some love there for a minute while we're regrouping, you certainly can do that as well. But again, thank you so much for being with us tonight, Taylor. Okay, we even have more, and that's what I love about this. I love my job. Originally from Harlan County, George Ella Lyon writes in multiple genres for readers of all ages. She has published 5 poetry collections, a novel, a memoir for adults, novels and poetry for young people, and 31 picture books. Among her honors are the Appalachian Book of the Year, the Golden Kite Award, ALA Schneider Family Book Award, the Aesop Award, Sybil's Award for Poetry, New York Times Best Books for Teens, Best Books for Babies, and she was a finalist for the National Poetry Series and the Weatherford and the Prinz Awards. Her most recent titles include Voices of Justice, poems about people working for a better world. That's from Holt. Back to the Light, poems from the University Press of Kentucky. Time to Fly from Athenaeum. And Don't You Remember, a new and expanded edition of her memoir, Two Fine Crows, Saddle Road Press. Now, her poem, Where I'm From, has gone around the world as a writing model. I kid you not. I mean, around the world and back several times. And she was recently inducted, she served as Kentucky's Poet Laureate in 2015 to 2016 and was recently inducted into the Kentucky Writers Hall of Fame. You can find her many books online at Bookshop, but she prefers you would go to your local bookshop and either order it, or she suggests driving to Hazard, Kentucky to get it from the wonderful red-spotted newt and our friend Mandy Shuffle there, who is going to be joining us in May here on Spoken and Heard with her brand new novel. So I first met George Ella at the wondrous Heinemann Settlement School during their week-long Writers' Workshop series. Now, you ask anyone who knows George Ella, and they will tell you she is who we all want to be when we grow up. She has personally touched hundreds upon hundreds of lives and makes it a point to lift up the voices of others every chance she gets. She is unflinchingly and truly loved beyond words by all who know her and know of her from her amazing Where I'm From project. And if you're unaware of this project, do take a moment to look it up, friends. You'll be astounded. I'm beside myself thrilled to welcome George Ella Lyon to Spoken and Heard.
Well, thank you so much, Kari, and thank you to Sheila-Na-Gig, and Taylor, thank you for that fabulous reading. Such brave and powerful words. I'm going to start with a couple of newer poems, and the first one proceeds from a writing exercise I do sometimes when I'm stuck. So maybe you can try it. If you don't want to know, don't ask. One time when I was stuck in writing or in life, I tried an exercise suggested by a friend. Make a query of what's troubling you and write it with your non-writing hand. And so, eyes closed, I asked what to do to get free. Instantly, a giant toad appeared, hideous, with a purple jewel, amethyst, against intoxication, against forgetting, in his forehead. Say ugly things, he told me. How? I asked. Open your mud mouth. So here is a really ugly thing. Mandate. Adam was white, you know, made out of pure white clay God scooped up and spat his white spit into. Yahweh over yonder laid down the foundations of the world for those made in his white image, and gave us dominion over every living thing, which means hornets and comets, buffalo and baobab, the Nile, the Amazon, any non-white humans, if you can call them that. Are you sure you can call them that? We will erase their stories. We will outlaw any mirror that makes us look bad. We will round them up, break their families, shave, shackle, and deport them. We will make the world safe for those God gave it to. We will make America white once and for all. I wanted to read, because it's Women's History Month, I wanted to read some poems about my women heroes. This first one is my mother. In the oldest room of the house behind my eyelids, where the world began, she stands. At the sink, at the stove, in front of the washer, behind the ironing board. She kneels, scrubbing the floor, drubbing Venetian blinds in the bathtub. She sits on a mahogany pew behind the wheel of a Ford, at the table, serving. The universe expands according to her laws. Planets roll through their ellipses. Earth turns through its festivals. A cedar tree appears, hot points of color star its branches, and cookies, tree-shaped, green-iced, silver-jeweled. There will be snow and singing, ribbons, torn paper, bright things you longed for. She gives all she can with both hands, but she cannot be touched. Another of my guiding lights is the great Grace Paley, activist and writer, and this poem is about her. I hold on to it in this time, which is a pretty horrific time with what's going on, with what we are doing. So the title is a line from Grace Paley. Let us go forth with fear and courage and rage to save the world. It can't be done, I know, so don't start. But didn't Grace go to Vietnam and bring prisoners home? Didn't she get arrested at the Pentagon, spend a month in women's detention for sitting down in front of a tank and holding up a flower? Didn't she march against Nixon? More than 40 years later, it's war without end. Amen. But Washington Park was saved from Robert Moses' plans to extend Fifth Avenue in it, and New York lost its bid to ban music from the park. Disgraced and broken, Nixon left the White House, and those POWs did come home. Like her socialist parents imprisoned in Russia, then freed when the Tsar had a son, Grace knew that the world can't be saved, but history can be changed if enough truth is told with people by people who get in the way. So she stood on a New York City street corner wearing a sign that said money, arms, war, profit, Wall Street. She calls us now to move through our fear, muscle our courage, and give rage a voice. And here is my grandmother. When I told my grandmother, who as a girl had driven oxen through Cumberland Gap, that I had to go to Indiana one more time to defend my dissertation, she cocked her head in that way of hers and said, "Ain't you got your lessons yet?" And I thought, poor soul, how could she understand? It took me decades to realize that I was the poor soul. And no, I ain't. Another of my guiding lights is Jane Goodall, and this poem was a dream. And the sculpture is Michelangelo's Pietà, where Mary is holding the body of Jesus after he was taken down from the cross. I stand before the Pietà, looking only at the folds of the Virgin's robes, not ready to face, her slaughtered son. When I do lift my eyes, Mary's countenance has become Jane Goodall's, still burdened, still grieving. And when my sight falls to Jesus, I see not a man's body, but rivers, forests, deserts, mountains, flowing blue, gray, green, gold, across her lap, the earth and all her creatures. Like the Savior's side, my heart is pierced. Jane Goodall says, it's still alive. So from Mary, we go to Eve. Eve works in foundations, bras, girdles, Mary widows. She sells undies, 32A to 48D, cotton, nylon, rigid, racy. She sells what binds and defines, lifts and separates, squeezes in and pushes out what makes a woman's shape out of the soft swing and flow of female flesh, makes cones out of curves, taut from loose, soft into hard. She buys here too. Oh, Eve, stripped in the wavery light of the Ben Snyder dressing room. Remember when you walked ecstatic and naked in the garden, at home in the role of you, round and luscious, how firm a foundation was that. And I want to close with a song. It's new words for a verse of America the Beautiful, and it's called We the Beautiful. I made this up to when I was in desperation about the Kavanaugh hearings. Oh, beautiful, our body shapes, our ample ways of grace, our plump or bony majesty, our spirit's dwelling place, a miracle, God finds her face in thee, and crowns thy good with sisterhood, from she to shining she.
You've left me breathless, Georgella. My goodness. I just want to thank you for your deeply determined insights and your humor, and for encouraging every one of us to give rage a voice, because we need to do that. And I'm just so grateful for you to just be teaching us tonight.
Well,
From the very first poem to the last, which was wonderful.
we all have our teachers, and we need to listen now, and we need to be together. So thank you for bringing us together.
Oh, it's my pleasure, truly. I was wondering if Taylor and Andy might go ahead and turn on their video and their mics, and we'll try this. Sometimes we have to turn our mics off because we get a feedback, but if we don't, we'll just keep them open. Everybody's loving your song, Georgella. They're saying how much they appreciate it. From she to shining she. Oh man, how could you not, right? Um, so this is the time when we have a little Q&A, and I thought if anybody that's attending tonight would like to ask a question of anyone here on our panel, you're welcome to do so. I usually start things out, and that way people get brave enough maybe to ask a question. But I know everybody's always interested in process. You know, how do you get inspired to write what you write? And I know that can get dreary to be asked that all the time, but for instance, Georgella, you were telling us about how you get inspired every now and then by just, like you said, you decided to write with your left hand and your eyes closed, and then, there it came, So anyway, could we each, Taylor and Andy and Georgella, talk about maybe what your sort of, basic processes are? You want to go ahead, Georgella?
Oh, well, usually I just ask, um, I might journal a little bit first, but then I just ask, does anybody want to talk? And I listen. Listening is I write by ear, and how the wonderful music of Appalachian talk and the wisdom. I mean, there's nothing like it. And I'm lucky to have, grown up with all four of my grandparents and their stories, but then just all sorts of people. And then sometimes that just, nothing comes. And then I will set myself an exercise, and it may take off from something that just happened to me. Like today, I went to the doctor and they asked me if I'd be willing to let them use a new enhanced program so she wouldn't have to type so much. She could just talk to me. And I said, does this mean AI is going to be interpreting my words? And she said yes, and I said no. So, I mean, that is a bizarre. Since technology's made us unauthentic, then it's separated us. So now we got another technology, so we won't be so like that.
I hear you. That's wonderful. Taylor, how do you get inspired to write your poems? I mean, some of it's pretty obvious, but
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of two things. For a very long time, particularly after I graduated from my program at UC, I kept a very intense reading notebook. And so for every book that I read, no matter what genre it was, I would keep a word bank of words that I found like fascinating or that, kind of grabbed me. And then I would collect, the quotes that stood out to me and just thoughts that I had as I was reading. And for maybe 2 or so years, I kind of like made it an assignment for myself to write a poem after I finished every single book using the words from the word bank. And that was a really fun and generative exercise. Um, but I think the more natural process that kind of happens is, I go through life and just kind of collect snippets of things, and whether that's in my notes app on my phone or whether that's in the mini notebooks that we carry kind of throughout our lives and days. And eventually, things that I've collected will kind of start to speak to one another. And once that happens, that's a sign to me that a poem is asking to be written. And so I just kind of sit down at the page and put those things that feel like they're in conversation onto the page and kind of see what happens. So, part of it was after coming out of grad school, I needed to kind of hear my own voice again after being in a program where so many people are giving you feedback and sort of input on your work. And so the notebook practice was really helpful. But the sort of more natural kind of like inspiration influence is just kind of collecting, foraging little tidbits from daily life until things kind of start to connect.
Andy, tell us about your process and, what inspires you to put pen to paper. Do you come with the music first or the words first or?
Um, yeah, I probably generally at the same time. I when I was younger, I might have given a more convoluted answer, but anymore, I just say I really only, like I said when I introduced the song, I really only write a couple a year. I'm suffering from cynical old man syndrome, so like used to be I subscribed to the theory that you had to write 10 good songs or 10 bad songs to get one good song, but now if it doesn't seem like it's going to be a keeper right away, I just throw it away, and I have no doubt that that's to my detriment. um, and before I forget, I would also like to say that I really feel strongly that poems are much harder to pull off than songs. So I'm always blown away to listen to captivating poets and speakers. Um, but yeah, I they come to me. I don't really believe in a higher power or anything like that, but I get inspired. I look for things that seem vaguely familiar, um, colloquialisms, and then kind of change them a little bit, but enough so they're sort of recognizable, if anything. But mostly, it just happens once or twice a year.
Nice. And where can we find your music, Andy? I know you have some online presence.
Yeah, I have a. I hesitate to say album. It's more of a demo. It's on Bandcamp. If you Google Bandcamp McGillicuddy, and that's sort of hard to spell, but you can Google Mayberry and I Love Lucy to get the spellings on those, I guess. I'm not I'm I'm not too technically minded, and that's also to my detriment. But you could find any of my stuff through Facebook more than likely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I love all of
Also,
this. Oh,
if I could, just one more thing. Um, after listening to everybody else's work and realizing how safe of a space this is, uh, I want you all to know that I'm not a conservative of any sort. I know that the song was very, um, it's been interpreted by folks at the bar as really MAGA-ish, and I don't mean it that way at all. I I'm very anti war unless it's really necessary, and I think that it's just more of a song about personalities and teenage boys uh, than support of any sort of um, political process, violence.
well, as a military mother of a son who served 3 tours in the Middle East, I didn't once think you were a MAGA person. I just thought you were telling it like it is, because here we are. Here we go again. Here we go again. Unless your son or daughter is involved, it doesn't seem, or a cousin or a uncle, aunt, sister, brother. So we've got to start singing those songs again, unfortunately. And I'm going to have to be brushing off some very difficult to read poems to remind people what it's like to send your children to war. So I thank you for that song. I never once, I hope nobody else did either. And I'm glad you clarified it, Andy. Very much. Well, is there anything, Taylor or Georgella or Andy, that you would like to ask each other before we sign off tonight? We're kind of at our ending point, but welcome to ask.
I wanted to say to Taylor, I'm looking forward to seeing your poems on the page, because to see what lengths of lines you're working with and how they're laid out, because your voice is so strong, and I want to get the visual shape of them too.
Oh, thank you. It's so funny that you know, from my first full-length collection to Resting Bitch Face also moved a lot to prose. So you might also find that a lot of the things that you heard tonight are actually in prose blocks. It was a very different book, and I think because when I work in prose poems, my brain, I think, functions like more cinematically. Like I think about scenes kind of like the way that you would think about film. And so it's just it's really interesting what happens to my brain. So I will be interested to hear what you think once you see the poems you heard on the page.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right. Well, everybody, this was, it always is above more than I ever dream it's going to be. And I'm so, like I said, I'm so happy. I'm so lucky to have this work to do to bring folks together. So I'm just going to say thank you all who've come out this evening and all who will watch at a later date. And I want to thank Sheila-Na-Gig, of course, and the Ohio Arts Council. Please buy our guest books and go find Andy. And join me next month to hear the marvelous Jennifer Franklin and Ohio's own David Hassler. Andy will be back with us, and that makes me so happy. So until we meet again, friends, I'll say good night.